Debut performance on this, the second day of 1996.
This is an unusual guy, this Mitch Albom.
The Mitch Albom Show! Glad to have you with us both on MSNBC and all across the nation. Kenny Brown.
The most dominant co-host in the game.
Hey, Mitch! The longest-running afternoon show in Detroit radio. The Mitch Albom Show starts now.
Sitting in for Mitch, here's Kevin Dietz.
In 2016, then candidate Trump came here to Warren just a few days before the election. Here's what he said. He said, if I'm elected, you won't lose one plant. You have plants coming into this country. You're going to have jobs again. You won't lose one plant. I promise you. I promise you.
The state of Michigan is front and center in the presidential debate as candidate and former Vice President Joe Biden came to the city of Warren. No local press was allowed. No questions were asked of the candidate. It was a straightforward speech about jobs with plenty of jabs at President Trump. Joining us now is political consultant Joe DeSano to break it all down. Joe, thanks for being on the Mitch Albom Show.
Thank you very much for having me, Kevin.
Yeah, so I think people were watching today not so much to see what Joe Biden had to say, but how he would say it, what his mental capacity to campaign on the road is. What was your take of Joe Biden's performance today?
Well, I feel bad for the former vice president because this is the second media event about the economy that's been blown up by Donald Trump news stories. But, the story was going to be much different in Warren today than it was when the day started. And clearly the message of the event got hijacked by the Bob Woodward tapes that have been broadcasting around the world all afternoon. I think Joe Biden came out strong and called them despicable. The only question now is what does it mean and what does it mean going forward?
So Joe Biden was able to keep his train of thought, no problem. The speech was obviously on a prompter, and he was reading it. But do you think this puts aside all the questions about whether Joe Biden is capable of being president?
Honestly, I have much more questions about the capacity of the incumbent president. I really don't think there's any problem with Joe Biden. I think the bigger problem is who's sitting in the Oval Office and who he's talking to and who's taping it.
So what did you make of the message when Joe Biden comes out and talks about jobs? We know that this race is closing. The gap is tighter than it's been. President Trump is strong on the economy. People who support President Trump like what he's done with the economy before COVID. They like what he's doing with the economy now as it comes out of COVID. Does Joe Biden stand a chance talking economy?
Absolutely. Joe Biden's a co-author of the Biden-Obama economy. 8 years of record economic growth that he inherited from the failed administration of George W. Bush. And to be honest, I'll challenge your assertion that this race is closing. All the movement across the country has been in the margin of error. This is a relatively stable race. Joe Biden's been in the lead nationally since he announced the campaign last year. He's winning from beginning to end. I don't think there's any problem here.
Why Macomb County? Why Warren? Did he pick the right city and the right county to go to?
Sure, absolutely. He picked the right county to go to. There are a lot of people there who want to hear from Joe Biden, who deserve to hear from Joe Biden. And I think the audience was extremely receptive to his message today of stopping outsourcing of jobs and offshoring of jobs.
So how important is it that Joe Biden came to Michigan in person? It seemed like it was a big issue of debate when Hillary Clinton didn't come to Michigan. Joe Biden showed up. How big is that? Does it make a difference with voters?
Yeah, people want to know their communities matter. I don't think this is anything out of the ordinary. It was a presidential level visit. Nothing out of the ordinary, and I expect to see him back.
So today, Joe Biden had a lot to say about the president. Do you think that it makes a difference when he comes out and says that Donald Trump lied to the people about the virus and cannot be trusted? Does that make a difference? Does that win over the independents that he needs?
Well, he's already winning over the independents. That's one of the reasons he's in this race. I'm not sure this necessarily changes anyone's opinion of President Trump. I think all it does is reconfirm what we've already known, that he will blithely lie to the American people. You see, there was a choice here. He could have looked the American people in the eye and led us into this pandemic and bring us together as a nation. He fumbled that. And now we're hearing tapes that he lied to us. This is the president's own words. He could pull a Jim Fouts, I suppose, and say it's not him on the tape. But the reality is it's Donald Trump telling a reporter information that we could have used as a nation to prepare for COVID-19. And that's not going to change anyone's opinions because he has a 35% base that is frankly insane.
Donald Trump said on the tapes as well that he didn't want to panic the country. If you go back to the time when this tape was recorded, there was a lot of concern about panicking the country. What would happen?
He spent his entire career creating panics, from the Central Park 5 to COVID. He's out there. This pandemic was coming to the shores of the United States no matter what we did. But it was a question of degrees, and it was also a choice. And time again, Donald J. Trump lied to the American people. We could have prepared with more PPE. We could have prepared a myriad of ways, but we didn't. There's a big difference between leveling with the American people, who, by the way, can take bad news, leveling with the American people and not creating a panic, but looking them in the eye and telling them this is a serious public health threat. And he chose not to do that. And let the American people decide. I don't think it matters one way in hell on a vote. The election is going to take care of itself. People need to decide if they're going to let themselves be lied to every day.
Donald Trump's going to be in Michigan tomorrow. Let's listen for a second to what Governor Gretchen Whitmer said about her concerns with Donald Trump's visit.
Well, it's distressing to say the least. You know, we have been following the science here in Michigan. We have a mask mandate. We've got gathering rules to ensure that we don't have super spreader events. And yet we anticipate that he'll be descending on this state and perhaps encouraging people to come maskless and come together in the ways that we've seen them happening across the country. And I think this is very distressing.
Joe DeSano, what do you expect to see tomorrow when President Trump is in mid-Michigan?
I expect to see an airplane hangar full of unmasked people lapping up the president's lies. This is a public health threat. Let them come in, but let's just be clear what it is. It is a public health threat. This weekend, he was mocking Biden for not wearing a mask. How is that taking this seriously? For wearing a mask. How is that taking this seriously? So now we're going to have a super spreader event in Saginaw, and we can track it up in the Bay County. We can track it in the Flint. We can track it back in the Detroit area. It's all trackable. Democrats believe in science, and so much of the Republican Party is nothing more than snake handlers.
How do you explain how protesters, thousands of people in the street, many not wearing masks, and Democrats side by side saying, get out there and protest, and then you come out and say that these medium-sized gatherings where the president is talking are super spreaders?
Absolutely, it's a super spreader event. They were packed in shoulder to shoulder the other day in one of the Carolinas.
And how is that different from the protesters?
Well, protesters are outside, spread out.
Well,
there's a big difference between being absolutely, Kevin. It is absolutely a different animal. Being outside clearly is different.
They're not spread out, Joe. Come on.
They are spread out.
Joe, what do you think Trump's going to say tomorrow? Do you think he'll respond specifically to the allegations that were made today on the book? Will we get
he needs to answer these allegations. The fact that he really hasn't to date, I think, is telling.
All right, Joe DeSano, thanks for being on the Mitch Albom Show. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Coming up after the break, we're going to hear from Mayor Jim Fouts, the mayor of Warren. So come back for that. But right now, we're going to take a quick check of traffic with Pete Spivak.
There's an accident working on the left lane. Northbound Lodge after Wyoming Street. There's a delay costing you about a couple minutes in that area right now as a result. The accident working on eastbound I-94 after 696 has been cleared. You'll find a small delay thinning out in the area as a result. The accident working on eastbound M59 Hall Road at Gratiot has been cleared. You'll find also a small delay thinning out in the area. I'm Pete Spivak, WJR, traffic and weather first.
Fast jet stream level winds keep most of the rainy weather up across the UP. It looks like fall across Wisconsin tonight with widespread frost advisories up. 61 degrees our low tonight with a cloudy sky. A mostly cloudy Thursday, 69, some sunshine, and 70 on Friday. Mid-70s this weekend with isolated storms late this weekend. I'm Scott Larimore at the Weather Channel on News Talk 760 WJR.
As politicians fight for well, DeSano got the comments going. Facebook there.
Yeah, right.
I know, Clay's one of our big commenters. Sandy's also been commenting a lot. I mean, here's what I'm going to say. At this point, looking at it, those tapes don't look or sound good. However, I don't really know what qualifies as political scandal anymore. So I think he was right in the fact that it's not going to change anyone's mind about Donald Trump. The people who don't like him are validated, and then the people who do like him will find a way to agree with it, I suppose.
Yeah, Mark, you're right. I should have described him as a Democratic consultant. He is that. Yesterday we had a Republican consultant on. I don't mind hearing from different people and in their opinions. It's totally fine as long as people know what they're getting. I just can't stand when people talk about something and they don't put it in context. And it just seems like this whole Trump on tape thing is taken out of context. At the time, there was so much concern about the country going into a complete panic, stores being overrun, banks being overrun. It was very, very frightening time. And if the president thought that information needed to come out the way it did, then so be it. And if that's even true, I mean, I just watched a bunch of Republican lawmakers on TV say that they were informed accurately by the president of what was going on. And again, it's a pandemic we've never seen before. There's got to be a learning curve. So I don't know why the president was talking on tape about events like that, but I'm not surprised at the timing. And I can't imagine it's going to change anybody's mind. I think the people who hate Trump are going to hate Trump and talk a lot about this, and the people who support Trump are going to say he's a president doing the best he can, and he's done a pretty good job on an awful lot of issues.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how he was speaking so candidly about that to Bob Woodward, of all people. Bob Woodward is. He's not going to sit on something like that.
Well, why did Bob Woodward sit on that for so long? He tape recorded him in February and didn't feel a need to alert the public himself that things were worse than the president was saying, and to come out and with a book in was it September, and he tape recorded him in February. I mean, I don't understand that either.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it was to create buzz about the book.
No, I know, but if he was that concerned, why didn't he come out in February and say, I just did this interview, I'm writing a book, you can read about it later, but I need to warn you that you're in grave danger.
All right, sorry, Kev. Hey, real quick before I pot you up, we don't have Fouts yet, so I'd say just go to.
I'll take some calls.
Yeah,
take
go
some
ahead.
Calls until we get to him. Okay.
Yep.
On the great voice of the Great Lakes, 760 WJR. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
Well, our last guest, Joe DeSano, a Democratic consultant from Macomb County, has fired up the phone line. So let's get to them. Greg from Jackson, welcome to the Mitch Albom Show.
Hey, how you doing, pal?
I'm doing great.
Oh, this is just horrible. I've been a Democrat my whole life. In the last 2 years, watching these idiot Democrats do what they did to try to get rid of Trump and all the other ugly stuff they did, they do not represent me. I can never vote Democrat again, ever, ever. And this pandemic is not Trump's fault. This economy was rolling. Our work has never been so good. So all these other callers can go to hell. I don't care. Just go Trump.
It certainly is one allegation after another, one bombshell after another, one one thing or accusations that's going to end Trump's presidency, only to see him roll along and as more information comes out, it seems to be not as big of a deal as it was made out to be at the time. But on the cable TV shows today, people are fired up about this book. Let's go to Kathy in Rochester. Kathy, thanks for being on the Mitch Albom Show.
I just want to say I'm sick of all the politics, and I really am sick of the lies. I mean, we're made promises of more jobs, and yeah, the economy was better, but was it a little bit better because of him, or was he riding the coattails of somebody else? And I'm sick of the lies. I mean, I don't think we would have been as bad off as we are right now with the COVID if he had been honest with us. And it's not just with COVID that he lies.
Yeah, well, there's no question. I mean, fact checkers constantly take Donald Trump's tweets and conversations and press conferences and then go back and show that, he said one thing one time and another time another thing. But many people feel he's done an excellent job on the economy and that the country was just humming along until COVID hit, and that now that COVID has hit, which was nobody's fault, who's going to be the better president to take us out of this, Joe Biden or Donald Trump? That's what people have to decide. Thanks for calling, Kathy. Let's check in with James in Westland.
Actually, our guest is there, Kevin.
Oh, good. All right, James, hang on the phone there. We're going to check in with Mayor Jim Fouts now, the mayor of Warren. Thanks for joining us. If the mayor sounds a little winded, we did interrupt him from his nightly jog. Thanks for taking a break from your exercise routine, Mayor, and joining us on the Mitch Albom Show.
Oh, thank you. I'm not taking a break. I jog while I run. So.
Okay.
I talk while I run.
You'll do both. Great. Okay. Perfect. Well, tell us, this was kind of a big day for the city of Warren as the entire country looked on to see how Joe Biden would perform as he came out and campaigned in public. Can you tell us a little bit about what this means for Warren?
Well, it's a great opportunity to showcase what I consider to be one of the safest and best run cities in the United States. And I think that's because we have outstanding leadership like Bill Dwyer, the police commissioner, Skip McAdams, the fire commissioner. Our fire department has won awards, I think 6 years in a row for being the best fire department in the state. Jack Stanham, our public service director, is doing a great job too. So we're here to serve and protect the citizens of Warren. So
why do you, that sounded like a great campaign speech. Why do you think Joe Biden picked Warren to come and talk? He could have gone anywhere in Michigan. He could have gone to Grand Rapids or Detroit, but he picked Warren.
Well, I got to respond. You said great campaign speech. No, that's our mantra. That's my philosophy, and that's what my job is to do all day. I return calls till 10 o'clock at night. Why Biden came to Warren, I hope, is to point out that Warren is a key area in Macomb County. Macomb County is a key county for both President Trump in particular and Joe Biden, Vice President Biden. And I think the key issue, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to Warren, is the fact that we are kind of the key manufacturing center. Warren has got a lot of new development from both Chrysler and General Motors. I think the two together have invested about $2.5 billion in Warren, new development in the area of the GM Tech Center as well as Chrysler. And so the key question for both President Trump and Vice President Biden is, what are you going to do about manufacturing jobs? How are you going to bring more jobs back to the United States? In my view, and I think many Warren's views, is that we should push for buy and make American. That means a lot of the jobs that are in Mexico or in particular in China, where we got the coronavirus, ought to come back to the United States, and particularly to Michigan and Warren.
And have you decided who could do a better job of that?
No, I have not. And I really don't want to get into picking sides because whoever wins will be our president, and I want to be able to support Vice President Biden or President Trump. I think both men have strength. I think Biden obviously seems to come across as very concerned about the coronavirus. He seems to have a lot of compassion and empathy, and that's his strength, I think. President Trump comes across as being strong-willed, and he wants to handle civil unrest, and he seems to be very supportive of issues like that. So both men have their strengths and weaknesses. I think the economy has done great under President Trump until the pandemic took over. And I think under the leadership of President Obama and Biden, the economy was great, and it slipped over into the Trump presidency, and the Trump continued it. So both men have strong strengths, and it just depends on what your perception is. A percept is a product, and the key for us in Michigan, particularly in Warren, is who is going to bring those jobs back. I believe NAFTA and trade was a key issue, allowing President Trump to be elected president, and I think the key issue will be that for both President Trump and Vice President Biden, who can help us with the manufacturing jobs. But I want jobs coming back to Michigan, and in particular, Warren. I don't want to see all of this manufacturing take place in China. I think if we look at what's happened, that has demonstrated that we need more buy and make American.
A lot of people think that however Macomb County votes, that's how the country will vote. What do you think makes Macomb County such a good bellwether?
Well, it's Macomb County has demonstrated an independence. They voted for Reagan at one time, and then more recently they voted for Obama. And so Macomb County people are what you might call Reagan Democrats. Maybe they're maybe they're former Obama people who might be open for both sides. I'm not sure. But it's clear that if they went for Reagan and they went for Obama, they have an independent streak in them.
All right, Mayor Jim Fouts, thanks for being on the Mitch Albom Show. We appreciate you checking in.
And I just want to remind everybody, please consider moving to Warren. Move to Warren, mi.org or .com. We have a lot of great things to offer, and including we may help elect the next president of the United States or the current president for re-election. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mayor. Let's check in with James in Westland. We got about a minute left, James.
Okay. I think the economy is better with Trump than it's ever been. People have been getting better wages, better help for the farmers, and he stopped having wars that would be lasting. I think there's a lot going that Trump did well, and he should continue to be our president.
All right. Thanks, James. Let's check in with Ken in Ann Arbor for the final word before break. Ken?
Charles from White Lake, actually.
Okay. Charles from White Lake. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Great program today, and thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I guess I'm a snake charmer because Joe said that just because I support President Trump, I'm a snake charmer. So I'm kind of curious about how that reaches across the aisles or reduces the rift. Actually, it just shows how the Democrats are hateful people, his example. So for any Democrats listening today, I have to ask you, if you find yourself saying, yeah, Joe, get him, call them snake charmers, you have to ask yourself, why are you supporting a person that causes a further rift between left and right? Should you be seeking to mend those divisions and supporting a person that reduces those divisions? I support Donald Trump because I can get behind him, and his record has proven that. Joe mentioned the record that Joe Biden has, and that's a record lowest and slowest recovery from any depression, recession era.
From deplorable to snake charmer. I don't know if that's a move up or a move down, but that's where we're at. Thanks for calling the Mitch Albom Show. We appreciate it. We're going to take a quick break. But first, let's check traffic with Pete Spivak.
There's an accident working on the left lane. Northbound Lodge after Wyoming Street. There's a delay costing you about a couple minutes in that area right now as a result.
Man, Charles kept faking me out with his cadence. I kept thinking it was done, and I'd bring him down, and I heard him talk. For anyone who saw me do this on that was going on. And I'm like, I can't read this guy's inflection.
Yeah, I never saw White Lake pop up, so I would have had to have a really good guess on him. But that was good. That was good to have the mayor.
Lots of
pop
credit to
in.
Feltz doing it while running. I can't multitask that well.
No, and I'm not sure what his age is because I don't think he tells people, but he's up there, that's for sure.
I breathe heavy just sitting still.
He said he walks every morning and runs every night.
Wow.
Yeah, I take my dog for a walk every night. That's about it. Better than nothing.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, let's see. A lot of support for you here, Kevin, on Facebook.
Well, a little Facebook love. I appreciate it. No, it's just, man, it's just like, I don't understand why people can't, can't have a conversation. It's completely fine to disagree, but everybody just goes to the extremes. I mean, to have a guest on and then he's calling people snake charmers. It's like, look, you were asked on to give your opinion of what you thought of Biden. And I asked him on because he's a Democrat. I wanted to hear what a Democrat had to say about him. I didn't really have a lot of questions about what the Republicans thought, it's like,
right.
But that's all right. It fires people up. It gets people talking. And I like that too.
Well, I mean, emotions are raw, and if you're already not a fan of the president and you hear the tape, it's visceral in itself. So he might have just been kind of fired up and angry because, yeah, I mean, he was spitting a lot of fire. I mean, you knew you'd get to Biden eventually, but he kept going back to it. And like I said, if you listen to the tape, it sounds bad. Right now, from where I stand, it sounds bad. That's the way I'm interpreting it right now.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how much context we have yet. Like you'd like to hear. Why not put out an hour of it or 45 minutes of it? And what's it going to give the book away? I don't think so.
Yeah, I definitely would like to hear the whole thing.
And again, it's just sort of developing as it goes. So I don't want to really overspeak about stuff I don't know. But what I did hear sounded intriguing. But on one point, I totally understand not wanting fear and panic. Like they use the analogy yelling fire in the movie theater. Sometimes you only need a certain amount of information. I'm not sure we can handle all the information all the time and what would happen and what would be the outcome of just a massive, everybody running for the stores and buying guns and ammo and locking themselves in the house. And, I mean, it could be a disaster.
I mean, I think the most frustrating part of this whole pandemic, obviously, is the information that changes and just how there doesn't seem to be a consensus between our experts or our public.
I'm going to jump off for once.
Sure. Okay. Let's see. Linda Kaminsky says the choice is simple. If you want a socialist society, wear a mask the rest of your life, and have a government tell you where you can go or work or go to school, then vote Biden. If you want to live free, vote Trump. Clay says he breathes heavily sleeping. Me too.
That's funny.
At least that's what my wife tells me. I can't hear myself when I'm sleeping, but I'm a bit of a snorer from what I hear.
Hey everybody! At 6:15, our guest is canceled, so we're gonna have we'll open the lines up again and let more people call in and be part of the show. So,
well, that's good because it seems like people want to chat today, and there's a ton to talk about.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. So let's see. Okay, once we're into our 5:35 guest, I'll look up who was our 6:15.
Okay.
Let's see. And coming up, we've got Angelique Shengalis, right?
Yes.
Yep. We're going to talk a little Big Ten football.
And President Trump trying to get it started.
And President Trump.
I mean, spoiler alert. Every show that we've done since he's been elected, and every show that we do, probably till even after he's elected, is going to have a component of President Trump.
We have to try one day.
I just assume we associated them.
Maybe April 1st, we could just do an entire show and not mention COVID or Donald Trump and see how we do. See how far we could get into it.
Yeah, just read top 10 lists. That's it.
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
We knew he was going to be in this segment. We just know it's also going to be about Big Ten football, in case you were curious.
Absolutely. Angelique Shingalis, the new political reporter at the Detroit News.
I think everyone has to be kind of a political.
He's right about the legislature and the president. And
it's testing everyone's chops.
Exactly.
All right, here we go. 20 seconds away. So I'm going to have us go away.
You're listening to the Mitch Albom Show on the great voice of the Great Lakes, 760 WJR. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
Is there any chance that the Big Ten will change their mind and start playing football? The Michigan legislature has sent letters, made phone calls, tried to convince the leaders in the Big Ten to change their minds and play. President Donald Trump has made phone calls to Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren to try and convince him to play football. Will it work? Joining us on the line now is Detroit News reporter Angelique Shingalis. How are you, Angelique?
I'm doing well, Kevin. How are you?
Good. So are you now a political reporter or are you still a sports reporter?
I know. It's really, the lines have been blurred, and it's really, I guess I never saw this coming at this rate and this pace. And you know, the Speaker of the Michigan House yesterday releasing a letter with signatures from different speakers from around the Big Ten, from the states that the Big Ten schools are in. Trump tweeting a couple times. I mean, you have the Joe Biden ad a couple, probably 10 days ago, with opening with an empty Michigan stadium. So, yeah, this has become very much a political playground with this whole Big Ten decision or non-decision right now.
I remember when I was reporting and the Red Wings first won their Stanley Cup, and I had to keep looking up these names and ask people how to pronounce them all. And I sort of wonder if you have to do a little homework to get to know your Michigan legislature as they weigh in on sports as often as they are these days.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Lee Chatfield, I'd heard about him. He's the youngest guy in the country as the Speaker of the House of Representatives. So, I mean, it's interesting to read about these people, and certainly the governor and her comments earlier today. So it's, I really hate that we have to talk so much politics right now in terms of the Big Ten, but they're just getting pressure from every direction. And I know you know that, Kevin. I mean, you're reading all these stories and keeping up on all this stuff. I mean, the pressure is not just from all these politicians, but you're getting it from players and you're getting it from parents. And it must be, maybe the Big Ten's not listening to all this stuff. I don't know, but it's definitely been, the noise has been extremely loud.
So for people who don't know, the Big Ten has a new commissioner this year, Kevin Warren, and I think he's a basketball guy, maybe when in college, when he was in college. But football is what is on everybody's mind. Do you know? Have you had a chance to talk to him yet, or do you have a sense yet of what Kevin Warren's all about?
No, I haven't spoken to him, and that's part of the frustration, I think, for beat writers who cover Big Ten teams, Kevin, is that the other Kevin Warren, has not conducted any kind of press conference with beat writers, a Zoom call, nothing like that. I mean, he's made a few phone calls to national writers, about maybe 3 or 4, a few times during this process. But, I've got questions. People who cover Ohio State have questions. People who cover Nebraska certainly have questions. And we haven't been able to ask him those things. So I think that's part of the frustration. And this call for transparency, I think that's included in it. And, he did work for the Detroit Lions. He comes from an NFL background, and people spoke very highly of him. And, you see this guy who is an NFL guy in a college world. And I imagine he's still learning the ropes and understanding how different it is to be a commissioner of a conference and filling the shoes of a commissioner like Jim Delaney, who had been at the Big Ten forever. And I'm sure he's not familiar with all of the inner workings. And this certainly has been eye-opening for him, I think. I can't speak for him, but that's my sense is that, this has all been different for everybody, certainly during the pandemic. But he's had to deal with that on top of learning this new job.
Yeah, getting a call from your assistant saying, "Hey, the president's online too," has to be a little bit different, possibly a little bit intimidating. It's certainly unprecedented. You talk to coaches and players and maybe even presidents at the University of Michigan and Michigan State on a regular basis. What is happening on the more local levels? Are you getting a sense of if there's any movement or any push to maybe play sooner?
Well, that's another interesting point that you are going to allow me to make, Kevin, is that President Schlissel, Michigan's president, has also not been available. And really, no one's had a chance to talk to him about where he stands on this. I mean, he's apparently one of the presidents who did not vote or did vote to suspend the season, to postpone the season, but no one has any real clarification why and what his reasonings were. So you're getting that from a lot of the Michigan players too, is that they wish they could have at least heard from him once to just say, this is what we're looking at. This is the medical data. This is why we feel this is important to vote this way. And so there's a frustration on that level. And then talking to Jim Harbaugh at this parents protest last Saturday outside of Michigan Stadium, they walked up State Street, ended up at the Diag. Harbaugh didn't throw the president under the bus, but he did say, look, I mean, I haven't had any communications with him. He does go through Ward Manuel, the athletic director, but Harbaugh's point is the Michigan players have been vigilant in wearing masks and being socially distanced. And in their last almost 1,000 tests for COVID-19 since the start of August, they've had 0 positives. And he said he sends that data to Mark Schlissel, the university president, and does not have an open line of communication. So there's that frustration. But the Nebraska president did speak today. Nebraska is a program that has been very much out front saying they did not want to postpone, that they want to play. And he did say that the return to play committee has been working and believes that there could be a vote on whatever it is that they're going to be proposing, and maybe it's several options, perhaps in October, which is what Jim Harbaugh said, that maybe an early mid-October start to the football season, perhaps November, maybe January 1's on the table, that will be voted on next week, it sounds like.
How big of a setback would it be for the Big Ten if other leagues are playing and the Big Ten isn't?
Well, if they're successful, it's going to look bad. I mean, you've got the SEC out front and the Big 12, and certainly the ACC, and you've got Notre Dame opening the season on this Saturday, in South Bend. So, yeah, I mean, some people want to say, well, I'm sure the Big Ten's rooting for them to fail. I don't think that's the case. But if they are successful, if they can pull off a season and maybe not have postponements, or not many of them, because there's certainly already some happening because of COVID outbreaks, then I think it's going to look bad for the Big Ten. But mainly in this sense, Kevin, and, our columnist, Detroit News columnist Bob Winowski, has been pointing this out in several columns, that his issue, and I have to say I'm aligned with this, is why couldn't they have waited? I mean, why did it have to be August 11th, less than a week after releasing a 10-game Big Ten only football schedule? I mean, why pull that plug so quickly, and why not wait to see if there's a development in testing? Because I think that's the biggest point for the Big Ten, is having rapid testing. And I keep saying, kind of like a pregnancy test, that kind of quick test. And they have to have that the night before the game and the day of game, and for them to feel comfortable, I believe, to play. And why not wait to see what's developed? Because there's certainly been an increase in news on that front.
Yeah, well, I don't mind, putting the safety of kids and staff and coaches first, but it is going to be weird watching high school football in Michigan and not watching Big Ten football. Thanks for coming on, Angelique. We appreciate the updates. Please come back and update us soon.
Kevin, thank you.
All right. We are going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Prosecutor Eric Smith, the former prosecutor in Macomb County. He pleaded guilty today. Why some feds are saying what he did was worse than what Kwame Kilpatrick did. But first, let's check traffic with Pete Spivak.
Westbound I-94 still closed for a police situation between 9 and 8 Mile roads. Delays are backing up past 696. Try Harbor Avenue, Gratiot, or Mack Avenue as an alternate. The accident working on North Mile Lodge after Wyoming Street has been cleared. Everything's back to normal. Westbound 696 between Hoover and I-75 has been cleared as that situation is now gone. And also there's an accident still working with delays on southbound Southfield Freeway after Grand River. I'm Pete Spivak, WJR, Traffic and Weather First.
Well, fast jet stream level winds cruising in from the southwest keep gray weather around mid and late week. And looks like some storms come into our forecast late this weekend. 61 degrees our low tonight. Most of the rain's well to the northwest of us and up across the UP also. Cloudy weather Thursday, 69. Sunshine Friday, 70. I'm Scott Laria Moore at the Weather Channel on News Talk 760 WJR.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Kevin. Looks like go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to say on this, Keith's on the line, but what I wanted to do was the U.S. attorney did a he didn't do a press conference. He just made a press statement on YouTube. So I queued that up on my phone. I just want to play like a little bit of that just to set it up. You guys are okay? I can just play it from my phone, right?
Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot.
What the heck?
Well, just you guys give me a thumbs down if it's not sounding right. But
we'll break. Well, how long's the clip?
I don't know. Well, it depends on how good it is.
Oh, all right. Yeah,
I can pull out of it at any time. It's pretty good though.
This brave new world of video, we're trying things. So let's do it. And
I did it with a podcast one time on Paul's show, and it worked out. But that was pretty highly produced. I don't know how highly produced this one will be.
Well, we'll see. We'll find out together.
We're not very highly produced here. Not very highly produced.
We'll apologize in advance.
We can break it down during the next break.
Exactly.
Let's see. So Clay's got us on a 65-inch TV. I don't know if I want to see myself on that big of a screen.
That scares me, Clay. I do think that's I got to get using my smart TV better. I have the smart TVs. I don't use them a lot. I know every once in a while I'll go to YouTube to mess around and look for something. I used to use it. Sometimes your kids' games will be streamed.
Yeah.
It'll be on YouTube or some interweb. And I'll go find it. But a lot of people use their smart TV as a smart TV all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I had a Fire Stick before I got my smart TV, so that takes its place.
Yeah.
Let's see. Patrick's checking in.
That's just too big of a TV. I'm barely 65 inches standing up. Like that's too big of a TV.
You know what? If my house is taken over by a TV that's taller than me, I'm fine with that.
But that's like a wall in your house then.
Yeah. I do have to say we upgraded to we did upgrade to like a 65-inch TV. I don't remember exactly, but it was my birthday and it was on sale. And every time we go to the store, my wife and I'd always want to go over and look at the TV. That's like the one luxury in life that I wanted to splurge on. So she got me one for my birthday last year. And it took me a while to adjust because I'm like, this screen's so big. Do I look at the center? If I look at the center, am I going to miss a detail over in this corner? It kind of
it's like a movie theater. Like you don't know where exactly to look that you're going to lose something.
Yeah, like you're sitting in the front row, and I'm like, my brain is overwhelmed. This is a lot of decision making for me.
I just turn on a basketball game, and when I can't see what the score is, I go buy a bigger TV because my eyes are going. So as my eyes go, I just order bigger TVs.
Looks like there's a debate here on the Facebook on the Facebook page. Sandy says athletes get paid well to do their jobs. They should do protesting on their own time. Patrick says politicians are paid to make laws, not inject themselves. Oh, actually, it kind of sounds like they're on the same page.
Yeah, they're kind of together.
Well, look at that. And after all this infighting about Joe Biden and Donald Trump with our audience and our guests, we're finally all getting along.
Harmony.
Just bringing everybody together.
Exactly.
You're listening to the Mitch Albom Show on the great voice of the Great Lakes, 760 WJR. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
He was the top law enforcement official in Michigan's third largest county, Macomb County. There's over 1 million people, just about 1 million people in Macomb County. And Eric Smith was the prosecuting attorney until he stepped down in disgrace. Well, today he was charged and pled guilty with obstruction of justice. We have a guest coming up, but first I want to play a clip from Matthew Schneider, the U.S. Attorney from the Eastern District of Michigan, who announced the guilty plea.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Schneider, and I'm the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan. Today, we are announcing federal felony charges against former Macomb County Prosecutor Eric Smith. The United States of America has charged Smith with obstruction of justice in violation of federal law. The allegations are that in connection with his official duties as the elected county prosecutor and chief law enforcement official for Macomb County, Mr. Smith encouraged at least 2 assistant prosecuting attorneys who worked in his office to lie to the FBI. The purpose of the lies was that so Mr. Smith could obstruct a federal grand jury investigation into a wire fraud scheme that Mr. Smith was perpetrating. Of course, these charges are only allegations. Mr. Smith is innocent until proven guilty. The burden of proving these charges lies entirely on the United States. However, Mr. Smith has agreed to plead guilty to this charge. Today, we also filed a plea agreement, which Mr. Smith and his attorney have signed. This plea agreement describes in detail how this crime took place. This scheme started in approximately 2012. During that time, while Eric Smith was the sitting Macomb County prosecutor, he controlled a political campaign fund. Mr. Smith raised money for this fund by telling donors that the money would be used for his re-election. Sometimes that was true, but sometimes that was a lie.
Okay, that is a big announcement. The FBI, the head of the FBI in Detroit and the U.S. Attorney here in the Eastern District said that in comparing it to criminal charges that have come against mayors in major cities, they consider this worse because Eric Smith was in charge of keeping the law, of enforcing the law, and instead he became a criminal and broke the law. Joining us on the line now is Keith Corbett, former U.S. Attorney. Keith, thanks for being on the Mitch Albom Show.
Fine. Nice to see you, Kevin. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Nice to hear from you. That's a big no-no, what the former Macomb County prosecutor was doing.
Right. I mean, once I saw that there was an information as opposed to an indictment, I knew the plea was forthcoming because the only way you can file an information is with the agreement of the defendant who's being charged. And when you see a prosecutor who misuses his position, and then if you listen to what Mr. Snyder said, he also attempted to solicit 2 assistant prosecuting attorneys who were, his subordinates to do the same thing. So the corruption wasn't only at the highest level, but he was trying to filter it down to people who worked for him, which calls into question the integrity of the entire office. And I'm sure that it was an easy case in terms of getting people geared up to want to prosecute this kind of conduct.
Yeah, my understanding was that Eric Smith, while he was the prosecuting attorney, pulled these assistants into stairwells and made sure that they left their cell phones behind so that they would not be able to record their conversations, and then asked them to come up with explanations that would explain why this money was used the way it was. And it's interesting too that the prosecutors here, the federal prosecutors, they are, I guess they can't demand that he do jail time, but they are asking that he do jail time, prison time. 15 to 21 months is what they want him to do on this obstruction of justice. Of course, it'll be up to a judge, but that would be a former sitting county prosecutor forced to resign, going to federal prison for 15 to 21 months.
I think that any prosecutor would want to see that kind of time. In fact, I believe that the filing of the information kept an indictment from being returned, which probably would have had many more counts, such as the wire fraud to which Mr. Snyder mentioned, attempted or subornation of perjury, at least 2 counts of that. So by pleading, he was able to wrap everything up in a single count. And I can't imagine that anybody would think that that's not the kind of crime that deserves time. He's obviously going to be subject to disbarment by the Michigan State Bar Association, and his career and to a large extent his life have been destroyed in an attempt to garner $75,000 over an 8-year period, which is less than $10,000 a year. It doesn't make any real sense, except a sense of arrogance on his behalf that I can get away with anything I want to get away with.
And I checked to see, just to double check, but he will still face the state charges that he is facing. So I don't know, maybe if he's convicted in the state charges as well, does he have to do both, or would he do one or the other, or does that just depend on how it shakes out with the judges?
To some extent, it's a function of what kind of a sentence he gets. And by that, I mean, if he got a 21-month sentence from the federal government and he got a longer sentence from the state court, then in all likelihood, he would have to do his federal time first and then do his state time. If he got a shorter sentence from the state than the 21 months, if that were their sentence, then they might allow him, the state, in an attempt to save money, might say, well, send him to federal prison where we don't have to pay for him, and he can do the time concurrently. It's subject to a lot of variables, but it's quite likely that he could wind up having to do both sentences independently.
And I know your feelings, because I talked to you a lot. I know your feelings about the damage that you believe Kwame Kilpatrick did to the city of Detroit. Do you think it's a right comparison to say somebody who was the county prosecutor, had the top job, could be seen as bad as Kwame Kilpatrick?
Well, in one sense, Kwame Kilpatrick's crime had a financial impact on a city that went into bankruptcy. So there's that level to it. But in terms of an abuse of the public trust, I think they're equal. And I would agree with the prosecutor that as a prosecutor, you would want to view somebody who's the chief law enforcement officer in the county with a degree of respect. And he's basically destroyed or at least dramatically impacted the confidence people in Macomb County have in the judicial system and the prosecutorial system. And I think it is a terrible blow, and it's an abuse of his position. And I think that the long-term consequences to office morale and the way in which outsiders may view the office will be there for a long while before the stain is removed from the Macomb County Prosecutor's Office.
All right. With the plea agreement to plead guilty, Eric Smith is almost certainly headed towards jail or prison. Thanks, Keith Corbett, for joining us on the Mitch Albom Show. We appreciate your insights.
No problem. Have a good evening.
You too. Let's check traffic with Pete Spivak.
Westbound I-94 is still closed due to a police situation between 9 and 8 Mile roads. You'll find delays are backed up past 696. Try using Gratiot Avenue, Harper Avenue, Little Mac, or Mac Avenue as your main alternate. The accident working southbound Southfield Freeway after Grand River has been cleared. You'll find a delay backed up near 8 Mile, which still has to be thinned out. I'm Pete Spyback, WJR, traffic and weather first.
Fast jet stream level winds keep most of the rainy weather up across the UP. It looks like fall across Wisconsin tonight with widespread frost advisories up. 61 degrees our low tonight with a cloudy sky. A mostly cloudy Thursday, 69, some sunshine, and 70 on Friday. Mid-70s this weekend with isolated storms late this weekend. I'm Scott Larimore at the Weather Channel on News Talk 760 WJR.
Gotta say, the YouTube clip sounded pretty good, Kevin.
I was going to say, did you guys listen or did you just tone out? Just zoned out?
Well, we listened because if you couldn't hear it, then we would have to say, okay, Kevin, kill the clip.
Yeah, that's another it's another way to do that. I was wondering if I let me try this real quick. See, it's like a test day on the Mitch Albom show, but we're not on the air anyway, other than Facebook, right?
Right. Are you testing the screen share function?
Well, no, I wanted to do if I just played the clips myself without calling the clips.
We're going to impose a tax penalty on companies that avoid paying U.S. taxes by offshoring jobs and manufacturing.
It's okay, but I mean, not tooting my own horn.
Not trying to replace you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was looking at it there, and I was wondering. Although, what scares me about that is if the audio is up, I think like if my phone rings, it goes off, and I think there's all kinds of extra problems that can happen when that audio is not muted. But I didn't know if it would even play if I played sound from the computer, if it would pick up off the Yeti, because my sound and audio are coming from the Yeti.
Yeah, oddly enough, I actually think it sounded better. And normally, if you would have asked which one to do before the segment, I would have told you to play through the computer. But I actually think it sounded better through the Yeti.
Yeah.
How bad is that? You're playing a YouTube clip onto YouTube, because this goes to our YouTube page as well.
We'll probably get a violation of some sort.
Right. The feds will be ready to take us off to copyright jail with everyone who uses
that was pretty interesting, though. I mean, when Keith Corbett explained that, he took about $10,000 a year for 7-8 years while he was in office. That is unbelievable.
Well, I mean, how I don't know if it'd be Sopranos or what soap opera. I guess how House of Cards is it, where an elected official pulls you aside to talk to you in a stairwell and says, "Leave your cell phone." It's like, am I about to get whacked or what?
Yeah, well, when he realized there was a federal grand jury, he decided to try and step in, and that's that the feds don't like that. They will charge that every time.
Yeah,
and and then it doesn't. His guilty plea is to the obstruction of justice, not to the stealing of the money. So maybe he's still going to try and fight the other charge of the money, the commingling of funds or the taking of funds.
Yeah, and I would have to look into more of what Eric Smith did. I'm not sure if I'm ready to say it's worse than Kwame, but Kwame was a lot more high profile and it was top story. Kevin, I think I remember you doing quite a bit of work as an investigator.
Yeah, well, no, the Kwame Kilpatrick investigation was massive in its scope and the amounts of money that they were talking about. This is a small amount of money. They're talking about, is it worse for a mayor to commit a conspiracy, or is it worse for a person whose job it is to enforce the law to become a criminal?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah. When you put it that way, yeah. The person who's supposed to be enforcing the law is breaking the law.
Right. That's all they're saying.
But by the way, Patrick, I find my pictures on Google, and then what I'll do is if I see a LinkedIn picture or a Twitter picture, I'll use that one because I know that's the one they put up. So that's the one. I know I'm not using someone's driver's license picture. I know I'm using a picture that they want to see.
Facebook sometimes gets mad at you too if you take their photos.
Yeah, Facebook gets mad at you for a lot.
Yeah.
I see a lot of.
I spent a lot of time with the security detail. I usually got along with most of them until I didn't. Steve Wilson took a beating, but Steve leaned into a few of those too.
I was going to say, obviously, you don't like to see a reporter being assaulted, but it also has to be really good for ratings too.
I'm a big fan of Steve Wilson. He was great at it. Kwame also has a great clip. I can't remember who it was, but he just walks up and he just smacks the microphone right out of the reporter's hand, and it goes flying against the wall. It's a great clip. They didn't mind pushing their weight around a little bit in that administration.
No, definitely not.
It was fun. Those are fun. I think I covered that for about 7 years.
It went on for about that long.
It was interesting the whole time though. I mean, it was crazy. It just got crazier and crazier.
Right. Yeah, like when you saw that breaking news graphic that all the channels use at the beginning of every newscast, no matter how old the story was, it was actually true back then. There always was something breaking. All right, let's see here. All right, we're back in about 40 here. Yeah, he was. So who were the big guys on that investigation? It was Steve Wilson, it was ML Elric, and you were the main guy for 4, weren't you?
Oh yeah. I covered that for 7 years, chasing him around. Jim Schaefer at the Free Press did some good work. Scott Lewis might have been there in the beginning, and then he retired. I don't know how far he got into it, but I was on it every day. ML Elric, Jim Schaefer were on it every day. Some stations got in a little later. Steve Wilson was great. He chased him around in the Red Navigator. We were all Steve Wilson and I were in Hawaii at the same time, following him around with hidden cameras.
Wow.
And bumping to Steve Wilson in Hawaii. Like, I think I know what you're doing here.
We're coming back here, Kev.
All right.
The president told reporters at the White House he didn't want to scare people early in the
Top police leaders in Rochester, New York are retiring amid criticism of the city's handling of the suffocation death of Daniel Prude. LaRon Singletary, the city's police chief, is among those retiring, as is Deputy Chief Joseph Morabito and possibly other senior commanders. Joining us on the line now is a top cop here in Detroit and Flint. He was Flint's police chief, and he was a deputy chief for the city of Detroit. James Tolbert joins us on the Mitch Albom Show. Thanks for being here, James.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kevin.
So as you're watching these situations play out across the country, as police interact with protesters and the community reacts so negatively towards police, what goes through your mind as you watch this?
Well, Kevin, I think the biggest thing when you first have to know what you're dealing with. You have to have some communication with the community. When you have these protests, some things I've seen where, and I've had the opportunity myself when I'm dealing with the Occupy Detroit movement, the OAS, and the $15 an hour wage people, that you actually communicate with them beforehand, especially if you have the ability to know what they're doing ahead of time. Obviously, go ahead and communicate with them. One of the things that really helps the police, in my opinion, is if you are out there and you're dealing with these crowds, one thing you can do is tape all your interactions, all your instructions, everything your officers do, so that it shows a level of transparency.
For those who don't know, James Tolbert is a police officer in Detroit, was shot in the line of duty, fortunately survived. But I point that out only because it's important to realize the danger that police face in big crowds, in situations like this, where you can't have your eye on everything, where you don't know what each individual is going to do. It's not as simple as people make it out to be, that says just let the people protest and don't worry about it.
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the biggest things we have to look at, Kevin, is the police, they're there. They actually serve two purposes. They're there for the law and order side, and with that law and order side, they're also there to protect the protesters. So that's in addition to anything else, regardless of what's going on, everyone has a right to protest. But the police is in such a difficult position sometimes, because you might have anti-protests going on. and they basically have to have their head on the swivel at all times to determine what's going on. I just recently looked at a clip of the Aurora Police Department, and then what someone put out of an incident that happened with Aurora PD, and the little snippet that was put out with all bad information turned out that that wasn't the case at all. So, and whatever they do, they have to understand they have many eyes on them. So the transparency has to be there, but they also have to understand that they have a twofold process to protect life. And that means the life of the protesters as well as property that could be damaged. There's a lot that goes in when you're dealing with a large crowd and how you have to do it. And to simply say, let someone do something, you can say, let them do it. But as soon as it is going out of hand, who's going to get the blame when it gets out of hand and property starts getting destroyed? It will be the police. So it's a very difficult job when you're handling that. And also to reiterate, like you said, people throw things at them. People, it's not just a very easy thing to say. Just let it be and let it happen.
In many cases that we've been seeing, there is absolutely no excuse for what police have done to citizens. And in most cases, police have been charged and will have their day in court. But my question is, what about the remaining police officers who were not involved, who were not charged? How do they go about policing after someone in their department has done something so despicable?
They tell you when you're in police academy, as a police officer, you have one foot inside the jail cell, other foot on a banana peel, and it can be very tricky in what you're doing. One of the things that you have to do after that, then you have to understand how that affects future policing. Now, you talk about just recently in New York, they were saying it's possible that they're not policing appropriately. There were charges that officers weren't out there policing. But you have to understand when something like that happens, is it in the back of the officer's mind? If I make the wrong call, will I be going to jail? Absolutely. I mean, it has to be in their mind because they see it happening to their fellow officers. However, in most cases, those officers are still out there every day doing the job, putting their lives on the line. They should be applauded for that.
When you see a police chief, a deputy chief, and much of the command staff retiring, it's just saying, I can't do it anymore. What does that tell you about the state we're in this country when it comes to the police versus the community?
To have a whole command structure basically going. Obviously I don't know this whole situation. I don't know why it happened, but could it be that they feel they're not getting the support in this age where everything is so anti-police, and it just seems as though that maybe they're getting tired of it. I mean, but in the same vein, I guarantee you, they're going to be officers out there every day, going out there fighting a good fight, doing what they need to do, and trying to connect with the community. I think the biggest problem here is that we're just not connecting with the community. I see what's happening to try to see Chief Craig trying to connect with the community. I see other agencies trying to connect with the community. And that's the biggest thing you have to do. It's all about that communication and understanding. And the latest incident where Chief Craig released that video, as soon as it got out that the guy wasn't armed and all this information, what he did immediately was show that video where this guy's firing at an officer less than 3 feet at an officer's head. It's the one that hit the officer. But that quelled that information that was out there in social media that this guy was unarmed and they just shot him for no reason. Now, that's just one thing. That just justifies the fact that why the officer's fired, because it's clear if you look at the video. But of course, there still has to be an investigation, and there still has to be a determination of if there was any right or wrong doing. We only see seconds of a incident, but many times it could be more information that was received before the officers got there. There's a lot of things that goes into play. What we only see in a 30-second soundbite.
By most remarks, Chief Craig has got very high marks for his handling of protests in the city of Detroit, yet still 4 lawmakers sent a letter on Tuesday to the city's mayor, police chief, board of police commissioners calling for an independent investigation. I mean, how do you win? How do you take a job as a police chief and win in this era where every little step is being judged. And even in a city where they seem to be doing a good job, you're under fire constantly.
Well, and it's that, whether you're the chief or officer on the street, it's two things that are almost synonymous with that. There's somebody that wants you there and somebody that doesn't want you there. What the reasons are, I can't tell you. Why people want to make certain claims, but it's all about transparency. And what I can understand, the chief tries to be very transparent with what's going on. I think that's the key. Do we need an investigation? That I don't know the facts, so I can't speak on that. But what I can tell you is that I've also seen where some of these organizers of these protests, they have nothing to do with the venue in which the protest is going. They actually hire local people, activists in the community, to head the protest, and it's for whatever cause they want to better. But they actually have other people do that, and when you do that, I've actually talked to a head of a protest. He says, "Look, man, if we get arrested, we've got somebody to bail everybody out." And I know that he didn't have that money, so the people who hired me have that money. So you have outside influences who come in to certain areas for whatever reason to get their point across. But they know this, that everybody out there isn't necessarily in the community and have a stake in that community.
All right, James Tolbert, thanks so much for being on the Mitch Albom Show. We appreciate your insight.
Thanks, Kevin. You take care now.
All right, let's check traffic with Pete Spivak.
Westbound I-94 is still closed due to a police situation between 9 and 8 Mile roads. You'll find delays are backed up past 696. Try using Gratiot Avenue, Harper Avenue, Little Mac, or Mac Avenue as your main alternate. The accident working southbound Southfield Freeway after Grand River has been cleared. You'll find a delay backed up near 8 Mile, which still has to be thinned out. I'm Pete Spivak, WJR, Traffic and Weather First.
Well, the numbers heading uphill into the weekend forecast with some mid and upper 70s showing up by Saturday and Sunday. Fast jet stream level winds keep most of the rains tonight up across the UP. 61 are low. There are some frost alerts up over in Wisconsin tonight. Mostly cloudy Thursday, 69. Sunshine Friday and a high of 70. I'm Scott Laurie, more at the Weather Channel on News Talk 760 WJR.
You tell your friends about it? Well, I get to live that every day, telling my listeners about great products, great services in the area.
Yeah, so we were a little late coming back because I was listening to your stories about being on the street that last segment, Kevin.
Yeah, sorry about that. I wasn't exactly sure. I just popped back. I heard silence. I figured that's my cue.
Yeah. No,
if no one else is talking,
yeah,
then you talk.
No, it's my job to keep that on the track. So that is on me and not
that's
on you.
That's mistake number one today. It's 6:16, and you just had your first one.
There you go. Gave up my first hit in the 7th inning instead of the first. When you're out on the street here, I mean, do you bond with like the other reporters from other stations out there? You see a lot, or is it like competitive, or you just kind of keep to yourself?
So the management is competitive. They don't really like you to bond with the other people. But honestly, the reporters all are friends. They really are all working together for the same kind of thing. If you're chasing one specific story, or if you're doing an investigation like Kwame, you're trying to get to the bottom of things, and you can't do it all by yourself. You really need 3-4 reporters digging in different areas to find it. If only one reporter was chasing Kwame, I don't know if he ever would have been taken down, because the feds were in no hurry to take him out. It was when the media just hit that drumbeat so much, they couldn't ignore all the scandals and all the the reports that were coming in. Then the more it's in the media, the more tips they would get from people. And then, of course, the text messages was kind of the last nail in the coffin. And then the feds were moving. So I have always tried to work with other reporters. You're trying to make the community better, not get a scoop, I guess. A scoop's fun. It's good, but
yeah, like
ultimately,
watchdog of the public type stuff.
Yeah, I think that's why most people get into reporting. And so you just want as a member of the media as a whole, you want to push the needle to make your community better rather than rack up scores. Except on Emmy night. On Emmy night, you want to win all the Emmys, and you want to let everyone know that you're better than your competition. So, like ML Elric and Jim Schaefer won the Pulitzer Prize for their Kwame work. It was great. I said, well, I'm in TV. I didn't have a chance to do that. I won the Emmys and the Edward R. Murrow. So I don't know what you're talking.
That writing stuff's for nerds, man. I'm on TV.
No, absolutely. I think everybody works together. So sometimes it has to be secretly, but I do a lot in federal courts, and I know all the reporters who are over there, and sometimes they can help you out, and sometimes they can't. And, sometimes your station doesn't want to run a story, and you want the story to run. So suddenly it ends up on the front page of a newspaper. You never know.
So what do you think, Eric? Take some calls here?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, let's open it up, and I'll give the number out when we pop back on. And it looks like George is there from Detroit. We can stir up people with
and I'm
Donald
going
Trump
away
again.
so that I get you back on time instead of chatting here on.
Show on the great voice of the Great Lakes, 760 WJR. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
All right, we've had a lot of guests on tonight. We've been talking a lot, and we want to let you join the show. So we want you to give us a call, 877-44-MITCH. You can call in or you can text the same number, 877-44-MITCH. We want to hear from you. Let's start with George in Detroit. George, welcome to the Mitch Albom Show.
Hi, thanks, Kevin. Boy, I think that guy kind of surprised you with his hateful rants against Trump and his supporters when you call him on to basically, kind of talk about economy. He did very little of that. Here's the thing. We had trade deficits with everybody, really. I mean, as far as, the NAFTA, Europe was taking advantage of us, China. What did Obama say about, hey, get used to it. Those jobs aren't coming back. What's Trump going to do? Wave a magic wand? Well, he did. The magic wand was corporate tech. Under Trump, median income went up $5,000. It wasn't just his 1% buddies that got the thing. The lowest unemployment and highest employment for several, groups of people, all kinds of other things that he did, that the economy, the highest stock market ever, which isn't just good for the 1%. It's good also for people, as you know, and everybody knows, that have, pensions and 401ks. So what are we talking about here? I mean, it's like, Obama didn't, he saved GM. That's nonsense too. He just handed out the bailout money that George Bush handed out the first half that he acquired, and then he handed out the second half. But, so how is his economy, the worst recovery ever after a recession? So, and the COVID thing, it's like, it's never mentioned during the 4 debates with the Democrats, right? Until the last 30 minutes of a 2-hour debate, they had one little softball question. Pelosi and the New York governor, go get on the subway, go party, don't worry about this, go down to Chinatown, Nancy Pelosi, this is no big thing. Same with Fauci.
A lot of selective memory out there from both sides who want to make a point. I do want to ask you quick though, George, before I move on to the next caller. What do you want to hear from Trump tomorrow? He's going to be in Michigan. What do you want him to say?
Well, I don't know that he can say it. What I want to be said, and he is kind of walking on eggs right now, I want him ultimately to give an ultimatum to these Democrat states and cities. That's another one right there, that they're letting their cities burn. Biden didn't say nothing for 88 days. Now, he's all Mr. Law and Order, but Trump isn't. I am. So I'd love to see him say, here's the thing. We're going to invoke the Insurrection Act. We're going to end this garbage. I'm sorry. Right now, he has to be careful, because if he does that, then they're going to, he's sending federal troops to invade states and cities and whatever. I'm sorry. We have an insurrection going on with Black Lives Matter and with Antifa, which Joe Biden didn't learn.
All right, George, we're gonna leave it there. Let's check in with Blake from Royal Oak. Blake, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah,
just listened to your last guest, police officer. I mean, what a tough job these days. So he was referring to the video that came on where this kid was no more than 3 feet away from an officer, and they weren't arresting him. They were arresting his friend, and he pulls out a gun and shoots twice before the cops react and then gun him down. And, of course, the video was released immediately saying this is what happened. But that's really just the half of the story. That kid that tried to kill the police officer had a criminal record a mile long and had a plea deal given to him prior to that saying you're free to go. You're back on the street. I think it was some kind of armed assault. Armed assault. How can that guy even be on the street? And then you're an officer.
And then what was so dangerous? And you're right, that is true. All of what you said is true. But what was even more dangerous is that the protesters immediately got on social media and called it a bad shooting and encouraged people to race over to that house, race over to that neighborhood and act and take action. And had the chief not had the ability to get that video turned around so quickly, we could have had riots for days. I mean, the fact that he was able to get that video and get it out and get the story straight quieted things down. But that was a very dangerous evening in Detroit.
Yeah, that's the problem. We want instant knowledge. We want to make a decision right away. This is right and this is wrong. He was also referring to, I think I saw the Aurora video. Some media outlets showed just 20, 30 seconds of the officer hauling this small black girl out of the car, roughhousing her. Watch the whole video. I mean, 1 minute you're thinking, oh, that's unacceptable behavior by a police officer. And then when you see the whole thing, you're like, oh, I get it. This girl is just, it just goes on and on and on. What
Context.
happens?
We need context. We need context in all these conversations. Blake, thanks for the call. Let's check in with Greg from Shelby.
Hey, Kevin, Mr. Positive. Hey, real quick, did I hear in the interview with Joe that he called all the Trump supporters insane?
No,
did he actually say that?
He said he called them snake charmers, unless I missed it.
Okay, because that was deeply offensive. I know that, and I love George's passion from Detroit. My God, is he awesome. He's got a lot of good thoughts. But Trump has a lot of explaining to do, obviously, and it makes me
You're talking about the book, the Bob Woodward book?
Oh yeah, and he's coming to Saginaw tomorrow, and I wonder how he's going to address this.
Do you want him to take it head on?
He has to. I don't know how he can manipulate it, other than saying, I think someone said before, is that, oh, that's not my voice. Now, if he does this, we Trump supporters have to really, really carefully consider, Kevin, why we like him. Yes, the economy's going great. Yes, he's done some good things, but we're going down a hole that I don't know if Trump and his supporters can get out of without everyone looking at us going, really? Maybe, I got to be positive, but I just got to, I don't know what to say, Kevin. It's mind blowing. And it's always coming before a month or so before the election, left and right, and it's hitting us in the face. And it's like, whoa, I don't know what to say. I mean, I couldn't believe that guy called us all Trump supporters like Hillary deplorables, but you can't put us all in one basket because we like him for certain aspects, like people like Biden for certain aspects, and people dislike Biden and Trump for certain aspects. But to blanketly say that everyone is insane or whatever you said, the snake, I just don't find that acceptable that we would, allow that type of temperament on WJR. It bothered me a little bit, but it is what it is. But that's politics for you, my friend. And thanks
we
for
got
taking my
it. We
call.
got it all handled over the course of 2 hours. We're okay, Greg. I appreciate your call. Thanks for calling in. It will be interesting to see what President Trump says tomorrow. Again, I heard some of the clips. I haven't heard all of it. I'd like to hear it in 10-minute clips of interviews, not 20 seconds of clips. I really think context helps almost every conversation we have, and a lot of the arguments we have on both sides. Often the context is completely left out of it. So the president will be here tomorrow. We'll see what he has to say, and we'll be talking about it tomorrow on the show. So thanks for calling in. We're going to take a quick break and check traffic with Pete Spivak.
I-94 westbound is still closed down for a police situation between 9 and 8 Mile roads. Delays are backed up all the way to 696. Try Gratiot Avenue, Harper Avenue, Little Mac, or Mac Avenue as your main alternate. You'll find that there is road construction working on westbound M5 Grand River between Evergreen and Telegraph, and road construction blocks the right lane westbound M5 Grand River just after 8 Mile. I'm Pete Spivak, WJR, Traffic and Weather First.
Well, fast jet stream level winds cruising in from the southwest keep gray weather around mid and late week, and looks like some storms come into our forecast late this weekend. 61 degrees our low tonight. Most of the rain's well to the northwest of us and up across the UP also.
So you guys, Sandy says that he did call Trump voters insane. He may have. He caught me by surprise, and so I was. I definitely heard the snake charmers. I'm not sure if I heard insane, but Sandy said he did, and others did as well. So,
yeah, Eric, I don't know what you heard.
I heard the snake charmer.
It's funny. I didn't hear the snake charmer. I think he said with Trump's base, you have 35% of them are lunatics or something like that.
Well, as soon as the show's over, we could go back and look on Facebook to see what they said. But in any event, well, it's just one thing. I've known Joe a long time. I like him, but I mean, he came on like
passions were definitely
a caller in
running
his
high.
basement.
Right.
It's like it's just not what I expected. But he, it was like, oh, I'm on. I'm gonna win one for the Democrats. It's fine. It's just I wasn't expecting it, or I would have handled it differently.
I feel like a psychic talking to the other side. I vaguely remember him saying like 35% of Trump voters are lunatic base or something like that.
35%. Okay.
Yeah, 35% jumps out at me.
It's like the science. It's like the COVID science. So we don't know what the science is. But anyway, it was. It was no big deal to me. I don't think he was wildly out of line. He just showed his colors that that he's all the way on one side. He wasn't here for a conversation. He was here for a rant.
Right.
He definitely let you know where he lie. Absolutely. Yep.
Which is fine. I would have introduced him that way had I known that's what he was going to do.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean the audio from the Woodward tape just came out, so he was probably a little more charged up than he normally would have been.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've watched the blockbuster that was going to take Trump down in the years he's been in office. I know there's people out there that can name them off and tick them off one after another. I'm not that guy, but there's been an awful lot of them.
Well. And that's what Guy asked us about this on his show, and I said, look, in a normal world, a normal politician that probably would have sunk their career, but like you said, there were a bunch of times in the 2016 campaign. There was a lot of times in that first debate. I thought, oh, there goes his candidacy, and stuff that will sink other people won't sink him. So I really. I don't even know if this is going to register on the meter. I don't know if it's going to lose them a whole bunch of points. I don't know if it's going to be like the Access Hollywood tape that everyone was aghast at, but it was far enough away from the election that people kind of forgot about it going into voting. But I really don't know.
With 5 weeks,
Honestly,
go ahead, Eric.
Go ahead, Kevin. No,
I was
go
just
ahead.
going to say, with 5 weeks left, there's probably 5 more bombshells to come.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of the three of us, I would say I'm probably the most new to following politics, and it just seemed like no matter what Donald did, he could not, like, he was still always in it, when in years past, if someone had done something like that, they would have been gone 2 days later. It's just, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has a different bond with his base than others. I mean, he knows something the rest of us don't, and I think everyone's trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it is. There's not a lot of people who stand up and say, I like what he says, I like what he does, I like the way he does it, but they like his results, and whatever the way he does it is not enough to have them get rid of him. Like, Rick Snyder, we interviewed Rick Snyder this week, and he's like, no, he's got to go because he's not civil enough, and I'd rather work with a Democrat, even though I'm a Republican, I'd rather work with a Democrat who can compromise than with someone who has no civility. And I don't know if that resonates. I don't know if that's going to resonate with it's probably not with any of the Trump base, but it's the independents. What do they feel?
Right.
Are they sick of the fighting?
Well, and it's weird. It's weird to think, that there still are people on the fence because, the world we live in and probably the people we know, everyone, everyone has their mind made up and they're very passionate about their opinions. That it's hard to remember that there might be some people out there who are still undecided.
Oh, there are for sure. That's why I started the show, and I thought this is where we were going to go, is how did Joe Biden do? How did he look? How did he sound? I think a lot of people are waiting for the debate to see how strong Joe Biden is today, and if he's the same Joe Biden he was 4 years ago or 8 years ago. And, we watched him today, and I thought we would talk about that quite a bit, but we didn't. We quickly jumped the rails and talked about just Trump again. Joe Biden can't come to Michigan and get anyone to talk about him being in Michigan. It immediately goes back to President Trump, which is amazing and been consistent for a long time.
Very on brand. Here we come.
You're listening to the Mitch Albom Show on the great voice of the Great Lakes, 760 WJR. Here's special guest host, Kevin Dietz.
I saw something that I really liked today on my internet feeds, on my social media feeds. I saw a lot of people that were in gyms for the first time in months, and they were reporting that they didn't have too much trouble. There was some social distancing, there was some masks, there was some sanitizer, but for the most part, people who like to work out were very, very happy to be back in the gym and able to work out again. It was a long, long time coming. Governor Gretchen Whitmer taking a lot of criticism for taking so long to open the gyms, but she said the numbers and the science showed that we weren't ready until recently, and recently is today as the gyms opened up again. Joining us on the line now is Kurt Nagel of Crane's Detroit Business. He followed this from the beginning. Kurt, what was your take on the first day of gyms being back in business?
Well, the gyms open today, Kevin, and that means that they, for the first time in 6 months, are going to start drawing from accounts again. And the real question to me is how many people are actually going to go back and how many people are going to cancel those accounts. So I think the fallout from this half a year closure is going to be seen probably here in the next couple of months or so.
Yeah, so we had this discussion in our house, and we were talking about, do you go back to the gym so that you can cancel your subscription or your monthly charge, or do you go back to the gym and start working out? And some of that may depend on the weather. The weather is starting to change a little bit, and maybe people will hold on, and I'm sure especially the independent gyms are really hoping that people will hold on and stay on as these gyms reopen, because it was a tough go for a lot of these gym owners to stay open for these 4 months without collecting any income. Now, I don't know how each business did it, but my gym in particular, they stopped charging once they were forced to close their doors. I have heard some kept charging and people had to go in and actually quit and then decide whether or not to join up again. But there's a lot of gyms in Southeast Michigan, and if they all shutter up and close their doors, it'll be noticeable, won't it?
Oh, absolutely. And to add to those different business strategies, I've heard of a few gyms that have remained open, against the executive order, and have actually upcharged members so that they could go ahead and pay for the fine that they faced. And they just sort of baked that into their business model because they, realized that if they were going to stay closed for that long, that they just weren't going to be able to rebound. And you kind of hit the nail on the head. Is these small mom and pop shop gyms and fitness studios and hot yoga studios? Those are the ones that are going to go quietly. They're either not going to reopen, or they're going to fizzle out within a few months after reopening because people just don't feel safe going anymore. Of course, the large Orange Theories and the Planet Fitness being the largest in Michigan, they're staring down probably collectively near $100 million in lost revenue. But because they're such a big name and they have that corporate support, they're probably, most of them are going to make it to the other end of this.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about whether or not people are going to follow the rules. There's one thing to open up when they were ordered closed. Now the order says, I believe, 25% capacity. I could easily see gyms letting that go and taking their chances on fines just to get the people back in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you run a business, any business at 25% capacity, you're not going to be bringing nearly as much money in the door. And with gyms, which run on obviously a membership basis, if you're turning people away, they're just not going to stand for that. They're going to cancel their membership. But I do think that it's going to be slow going in these first few months. I think people are still really nervous about being back out there. Gyms in particular, which sometimes are stigmatized as petri dishes for germs. I think they're going to have a real tough go, and I think it's going to be a gradual process to see if people go back.
Yeah, I've talked to people, and while people want to go back, I don't think they want to go back and run with a mask on their face. I don't think they want to go back and use pools and hot tubs and showers and gyms. I think they want to maybe go back and work out on a treadmill and then get back in their car and go home, which maybe, the Planet Fitness model may work better. But some of these bigger companies, they have basketball and they have all kinds of things inside their gym facilities. And it's going to be interesting to see what people are willing to do and who's willing to do it. Maybe younger people will come back. Some of the more powerlifting type gyms might do better than, say, some of the family oriented gyms. But it's going to be a real struggle and something to keep an eye on.
Absolutely, especially getting into flu season, dare I say, and the colder months. The state officials, the governor is going to be keeping a real close eye on this, and people are going to be honestly looking for something to do in the January, February Michigan. So I think a lot of people are hoping that gyms can do this right and can stay open.
Yeah, I think a lot of the strategy has been to open businesses as slowly as possible so you don't have to have another shutdown, because another shutdown, could just be the death for many businesses. Do you see movie theaters opening sometime soon? Do you think they're next, or do you think they're just going to be in this until the vaccine comes out?
I think movie theaters are next. All the owners and the coalitions and associations that I've talked to have, they told me last week that was their week, and they were very upset that they weren't included in the latest announcement of openings. But the feeling is that it's imminent. And the questions they have are just sort of centered on the science that the governor is pointing to in when she decides to reopen different businesses. And the owners that I've talked to are saying that there's no real reason why movie theaters can't also be open, especially if you're going to open bars and you're going to open gyms. So I'd expect that we'd see an announcement here in the next couple of weeks, but I can't say anything for certain on that front.
All right, Kurt Nakel. Wow, just $100 million. Planet Fitness losing $100 million. Unbelievable. Thanks for giving us some insight into what's happening in the gyms world. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
All right. When we come back, we're going to open up the lines, 877-44-MITCH, 877-44-MITCH. Right now, let's check traffic with Pete Spivak.
A major police situation has closed westbound I-94 between 9 and 8 Mile roads. Avoid the area. Delays are backing up to 696 in the area. As a result, try Gratiot, Harper Avenue, Mack Avenue, or Little Mac as your main alternate. You'll find road construction on Van Horn Road in both directions between Allen Road and 4th Street, and construction is blocking 2 lanes on northbound 4th Street at Outer Drive. I'm Pete Spivak, WJR, Traffic and Weather First.
Fast jet stream level winds keep most of the rainy weather up across the UP. It looks like fall across Wisconsin tonight with widespread frost advisories up. 61 degrees our low tonight with a cloudy sky. A mostly cloudy Thursday, 69, some sunshine, and 70 on Friday. Mid-70s this weekend with isolated storms late this weekend. I'm Scott Larimore at the Weather Channel on News Talk 760 WJR.
All right, so with this going on and all that, and the gym reopening, I want to ask Kevin, would you go to the gym?
Oh, I would go to the gym. I got to believe that if you're willing to go into a restaurant and sit a couple tables away from somebody else and eat, if you're willing to go out, you're willing to go out, and so the gyms don't seem any more dangerous to me, but I would not be heading down to the locker room and the showers and all of that. I think I would spray the treadmill down, run, spray the treadmill down, leave. I don't see how that's any more dangerous than any number of things. The casino.
You're eating at a table, but you're not sharing, and I think you're not technically sharing, but you're not using weights with a person. Like Mike's not, doing his curls and then walking away, and I'm not walking right over and doing curls right after him. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. And I get that. The whole idea of working out and breathing heavy and airborne illness. But I've been in those grocery stores and I'm looking at those carts and people are walking around there getting their groceries and sneezing on their carts and I don't know how well they're cleaned off. If they're any cleaner than a treadmill or at the casino, they're in there pulling on the slots or hitting the spin button and they're I don't know. I mean, you're either afraid or you're not afraid, I guess. I do think.
Well, I could see the thing is too. I just had it. It's gone. I don't like walking around in a mask. I couldn't imagine getting on a treadmill and trying to run in a mask.
Well, that's what keeps me out of places. I can't stand to be in a store. You have to have your mask on. I'm good for about 2 minutes, and then I'm like, never mind. Whatever I came here for, I don't need it that badly.
I'm a wait 2 weeks guy. Whenever something whenever something opens back up, I wait a couple weeks to see what the numbers do. I still don't eat out at restaurants a lot. I've a lot of the habits I'm picking up in COVID are ones I kind of like. I kind of like just getting carry out and taking it home. There are some foods though you can't get carry out. Like it's best at the restaurant and it doesn't carry out well. But if I were a gym goer, I do the same thing. Same thing at the movie theaters. I'll wait a couple weeks and see what the fallout is, so to speak.
Well, if you could see me, for those of you that could see me, you could see I let my gym membership lapse long before COVID, but I was just more curious about that. And I agree with you, Mike. That's the other thing I've learned from COVID. There are some places that just do not translate in carry out. It just doesn't work the way you want it to.
I get a call from my gym, and they tell me that my credit card is 3 years old now and it's expired, and I need to bring a new one up. And I asked them to send me directions to the gym so that I could get back up there and make sure my membership is still good.
Let's see. Sandy says prime rib does not carry out well. I'm a big eggs over easy guy, and eggs over easy do not carry out well because they kind of steam in there and they become over medium.
I've ordered some breakfast sandwiches with the eggs over easy on the sandwich, and it doesn't bother me at all. I get home and it's all a gooey mess, and that's just fine by me.
I love a gooey egg. Oh, we're back in 10 seconds here.
You're listening to the Mitch Albom Show on the great voice of the Great Lakes, 760 WJR. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
877-44-MITCH, 877-44-MITCH. You can text that number. You can call that number. We're opening up the phone lines for the last few minutes of the show, and we're bringing in the round table. Eric Dorsch and Mike Parsons. Come on in, guys.
Yeah, so Eric let me pick the topic of the round table for today.
Excellent.
And, yes, and very generous of him. All right, so I've been watching Cobra Kai on Netflix, and I've really been enjoying it. My wife and I started it on Sunday. Probably going to finish it up tonight. We really like Stranger Things. The last season of Stranger Things we watched in one day.
Wow.
Yeah, well, we were both on vacation.
Yeah, okay.
And then I'll flip through the channels and I'll find a show that I used to watch every episode of, like The Office. I put The Office on as like a security blanket. I remember all the lines. I've seen them a million times. But I've noticed that I don't get that kind of emotional, warm, fuzzy blanket feeling from the shows I binge watch as much as I do on shows that I've spent years and years watching every week, and I'm wondering if that happens to anyone else. I mean, the shows on Netflix, the shows on Hulu, you get really into them, and then you watch them in a day. But
that is that's so weird that you brought that up. It's so funny. So there's an actor who went to Brother Rice High School where I went, and I can't remember his name right now, but he's in a show called Greenleaf, which has been out there for a little bit, but it's still going on. And so I turned it on and watched it, and I thought it was good. So I binge watched, I think it was 3 or 4 seasons, and this week it drops its 5th season or whatever it's on. And so I had a delay of like 2 or 3 weeks, waiting for the next season to drop. And I was just trying to find something to watch. And I somehow on Netflix, I came across West Wing, which might be 20 years old. I don't know how long ago West Wing came
early
out.
90s, I think.
It was a big, right? It was a big deal when it came out. But so I said, I'm just going to put episode 1 on here, season 1, episode 1. And I watched it. And I don't know if it's because politics are so different now than they are on West Wing TV. But I've found myself, I'm now on like episode 13, season 1. So I've gone back and I'm now watching West Wing, which I saw every episode when it came out the first time around. And it's kind of interesting to how people find a comfort show, like you said, The Office. We watch game shows as a comfort show with the whole family, just something easy to watch, and nobody's going to get too worked up about.
Yeah, I think what happens is that you spend years watching like a show on network TV. The Office. It was on every Thursday for like 8 years,
8 or 9 years, yeah.
And you're waiting for it. And so I think what happens is you kind of grow an emotional connection to the show and the characters where, you watch Stranger Things in a day and you like the show and you like the characters, but it almost feels more disposable.
Well, you and I were talking about it before the show, and I said The Office, or for me, it's Friends. I could watch Friends on a loop and it won't bother me. you spent 10 years in the coffee shop with the friends, or you spent 9 years in Dunder Mifflin with the cast of The Office. So you felt close to them. And like we said, when it comes to binge watching, it's almost like a movie. You're just kind of you watch it all in a row, and then you have to wait at least a year before you get that next round of things. So you don't necessarily connect as much as you would spending a decade of your life with these characters.
Now, I highly doubt you guys are watching this show, but on CBS right now, there's a show called Love Island, and it is on every night. It's on 5, maybe 6 nights a week on CBS in prime time. It's either 8 to 9 or 9 to 10. I'm not sure which, but so they've taken a new series. It's a reality show, but they've decided to put it on every single night to see if they can get America to binge watch this, where you only have to wait 24 hours for the next episode. You can't watch it all in one day, but you can watch it day after day for, I think it's on for 4 or 5 weeks, which is pretty wild when you think about it. If it bombs and they're stuck with the show every day of the week for 5 weeks.
Well, and Danielle was mentioning how some streaming services are doing, you get the shows in installments. You'll get 2 or 3 episodes, and then you have to wait a week, and then they'll let 2 or 3 more episodes out. And I hadn't heard of that, but that even to me, like it seems odd to say I watch a show more than once a week. You know what I mean? Like, it's that thing you get used to. Like Mike and I, for years, we would talk Gotham. After we watched the episode of Gotham, we discuss it. Now you can watch Gotham, I know because I did, in a week if you want to.
So we did that with Yellowstone, which is Kevin Costner show. And every Sunday we would, here it comes. It's, you could just wait and tape record them all and then binge them if you preferred to do it that way. But it is kind of fun knowing that you have to wait a week for the show to come, and then you kind of have appointment TV to watch it.
Right. We did a good cliffhanger. You kind of have your plan for the whole next week. It's like, oh God, why'd they have to stop it there?
And you spend the week wondering what happened. Did this happen? Yeah. Did they go this way? Did he fall off the bridge? What happened? And it is that thing. It makes you want it. Whereas with binge watching, cliffhangers are pointless because it's a cliffhanger. And then you go next episode, and you know in 10 seconds what happened.
Or how annoying is it when you're binge watching an old series and every new episode starts with previously on?
Right. I've already, yeah.
You're like, I just watched it 6 minutes ago.
Actually, Eric, I actually have to disagree with you about cliffhangers in these shows that you binge watch, because I've been sucked in by a couple shows where if it's a half-hour show, 25 minutes of the show is just boring and slow as hell, but then there's a good cliffhanger at the end. You're like, okay, now it's getting better. And so you sit there and you watch the next episode, and then you're bored for another 25 minutes until the last 5 minutes of the show. And it just kind of teases you and keeps stringing you along until you've watched the whole season. And you're like, well, that was a waste of time.
I get that. But like, all right, to put in perspective of a show you and I both watch. We watch Gotham. Gotham on Netflix doesn't make sense with cliffhangers because there's no suspense of having to wait the week. You're going to know what happened. That's more what I meant.
I wonder if they do cliffhangers differently on network as opposed to binge TV.
Who knows?
I'm a big fan of cliffhangers. I'm with Mike on that one. I'll watch the whole show. I'm bored to death. The cliffhanger will come out, and I say, oh, I got to see what happens next. I'll just start it. And so then I start it, take the first couple minutes, and the next thing I know, 25 minutes of boredom until the next cliffhanger.
Should we leave a cliffhanger for the show tomorrow? Make everybody have to come back and find out?
Yes. Tomorrow, Donald Trump is in mid-Michigan, and all right, that's what you get. There's your cliffhanger. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Let's check in now with traffic and Pete Spivak.
Oh, there we go. There you go, Eric. I was going to get you here eventually.
Yeah, you're good. Hey, Kev, just so you know, I talked to Sean and D-Mac. We're going to do what we did a couple weeks ago on Friday.
Okay.
We'll be on in like the last segment.